All right, welcome back to another episode of Business Blindspots Revealed. Hi, Tina.
Hi, Leslie.
All right, so we have an interesting topic today. I guess we'll just jump right into the tailgate here. so, so what we're cooking up today we heard recently that Deion Sanders, he's the head coach of the University of Colorado football team, and he's a huge part of that program. He recently came out and shared with the world that he had been diagnosed with a severe or an aggressive bladder cancer. They treated it. He's going to be fine, he says right now. But really, what we want to talk about is if you think about your organization, um, what would you do, or what would be the impact if one of your key people, your top guy, maybe the face of your company or your top salesperson, if they were no longer able to be in the picture for some extended period of time, or if it ended up being an abrupt, permanent disruption, how would you handle that? How would that affect your business? I'm going to hop us into the huddle. So, Tina, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, Leslie, from the lens of a risk manager, we have consulted our employer business owners for decades on key man insurance, right? But the world has become so much more complex, and the relationships that impact business are so much more complex. And unfortunately, we find more times than not that there are not written clear succession plans and action put into place in the event that this does occur. And I believe as business advisors, we've all witnessed where this has happened without a plan. And unfortunately, the other executives and the team members are left to manage these scenarios and at the same time manage the loss of their team leader or team member. So again, it does come into making time to work on the business versus in the business,
Mhm.
because if the key person does not have a strategic succession plan, the business may not make it.
Exactly, exactly. And in this case with Deion Sanders, he was just out for a while, right? He was out for a few months, and he's kind of slowly coming back. We can kind of make light of the recent scenario with, let's call it the Coldplay Kiss Cam, where that ended up being an abrupt disruption and permanent disruption of the CEO, the leader of the company, the visionary of the company. So you have to think about, even in your business, small business, mid-sized business, you have to think about these things can happen, right? It might not be a kiss cam, it might not be an illness, but maybe it's something maybe you have a business partner and there's something going on with them that takes them away from the business for a little while. Maybe it's you and your own family, maybe it's your health. So, do you have a backup CEO? Do you have, you know, risk management or just different ways to mitigate these opportunities? Have you tried to proactively think about if A happens, then we need to make sure we get plan B into place? Those kind of discussions you should be having, with your closest advisors. Okay. All right. So, what is, Tina, our most valuable point? Oops, come back.
Point is take time and have a plan, right? That way the plan can be put into action if needed. The other most valuable point is if you don't take time to work on the business and this happens, it could be the demise of the business and all the people impacted. And never underestimate that there are cameras or kiss cams everywhere, and relationships and reputation can also be very damaging to the culture and the reputation of the organization.
Absolutely. And not just your organization, your family or their kids. Like there's always so many touch points when something like this happens. So let's just
Exactly.
try to be proactive in our business planning and our personal planning so that we don't have to be reactive. Okay. let's kick off the locker room chat.
So the locker room is for all of your different views and opinions and testimonials and experiences. So please join us in the comments and share your thoughts and some tips on how we can support our business owners in putting a plan in place to protect their organization and their profitability.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.